There's a moment most cat owners know but rarely think to question. You're sitting quietly, not calling them over, not offering food, not making a sound. And then a paw placed softly on your leg, your hand, your arm, held there, still. It feels tender, maybe even a little funny. But if you've ever wondered whether there's something deeper going on beneath that small, deliberate touch, there is. And the science behind it is far more fascinating than most people expect. Let's start with something that reframes the whole picture. Cats are not naturally vocal animals. In the wild, adult cats communicate almost entirely through scent marking, body posture, slow blinking, and tail position. Vocalizing, making sound, is energetically costly, and more importantly, it attracts attention. For a solitary predator that is also prey to larger animals, silence is survival. So why do domestic cats meow so much? Because we shape that behavior, and they let us. Over thousands of years of coexisting with humans, cats learned that we respond to sound. We look up, we move toward them, we open cans. Meowing in the form we recognize today evolved almost entirely as a communication tool directed at humans. Adult cats living without human contact rarely meow at all. What does this have to do with the paw? Everything. Because the paw resting on you is doing something similar, but in reverse. It's not a vocalization cats adapted for us. It's a gesture they appear to have constructed for this specific relationship. Behavioral researchers who study cat-human interaction refer to this kind of adapted signaling as social referencing. The cat actively reading a person, calibrating their signal to what that particular individual responds to, and initiating contact on that basis. In other words, your cat studied what works with you, specifically, and then they used it. That brings us to something even more precise about when the paw tends to appear. It rarely comes first. Before that paw makes contact, your cat has almost certainly been watching you, monitoring your body language in a way most owners never notice. A well-cited study from the University of Lincoln found that cats track their owner's emotional state through a combination of facial expression, vocal tone, and postural cues. They aren't simply reacting to what you do. They're anticipating what you're about to do. This matters because it means the paw touch is rarely random. Owners frequently report that it happens when they've gone quiet, when their breathing has slowed, when they've shifted slightly inward, not during activity, during stillness. The cat clocked a change in you and reached out. This is attunement, not in a vague poetic sense, but in a measurable behavioral sense. Your cat has built an internal model of your normal state, and they notice deviations from it. The paw is often their response to detecting one. If you're finding this interesting, it's worth hitting subscribe before we go further. The next few sections get into the neuroscience and the evolutionary biology, and that's where it really gets unexpected. And if your cat has ever done this to you, drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many people recognized exactly what moment I'm describing. Now here's something you can actually test at home, and it changes how you read every future touch. Research from Queen's University Belfast, led by Dr. Deborah Wells, found that approximately 75 to 80% of cats show a consistent paw preference, a dominant limb they reliably use when a task is precise or emotionally significant. Female cats tend to favor their right paw. Males more often use their left. The preference isn't absolute, but it is consistent enough to be measured and predicted. Here's what makes that relevant. When a task matters to a cat, when they're focused, when the stakes feel real, they reach with their dominant paw, their most reliable, most coordinated limb. You can figure out which paw your cat favors by holding a treat just out of reach over several sessions and watching which paw reaches first consistently. Once you know that, you have a new lens for every paw touch. Because if your cat rests their dominant paw on you, unprompted, in a calm moment, they brought their best tool to that gesture. That's not absent-minded contact. That's precision. There's also a physiological layer to this that most people never consider. When cats are newborns, blind, unable to regulate their own temperature, entirely dependent, they press their paws against their mother while nursing. This isn't just a feeding mechanism. The pressure of that contact stimulates oxytocin release, the same neurochemical associated with bonding and calm in mammals broadly. The paw press in those first weeks of life becomes neurologically linked to safety, to warmth, to the feeling of being somewhere good. That association doesn't vanish in adulthood. It quiets, but the neural pathway remains. When your adult cat places their paw against you and holds it there, particularly in a moment of relaxation, their nervous system is activating some version of that same pathway. The contact itself, the pressure, the warmth, functions as a self-regulating signal. This is why you'll often notice it happening right before they close their eyes, right before they go fully still. The gesture isn't only directed outward at you, it's also working inward on them. They're using the contact to settle. You've become, for your cat, a physiological anchor, not because you performed for that role, but because you were there, consistently, until their nervous system learned to associate you with that state. And then there's the vulnerability piece, which, when you understand it, makes the whole gesture land differently. Cats are built for speed and readiness. 4 paws on the ground is their default state. It's how they stay prepared to launch, dodge, or disappear in under a second. Lifting one paw and resting it somewhere reduces their immediate escape capacity. That's not a dramatic statement. It's a mechanical fact about how their body works. A 2020 paper on interspecies contact behavior noted that physical touch between animals, especially across species, functions as a mutual vulnerability signal. Both parties, in making contact, become slightly more open and slightly less defended. For an animal with hardwired prey response instincts, this is not a casual default. It requires a baseline level of felt safety that most cats don't extend to most situations. Your cat is not consciously calculating any of this, but the instinct is there, and the paw is reaching past it. What that means practically is this. In the moment that paw rests on you, your cat has determined at an instinctive neurological level that you are not a threat, not merely tolerated, actively safe, safe enough to be slightly less ready, safe enough to stay. Which brings us to the thing that makes all of this genuinely remarkable. Unlike dogs who were selectively bred over thousands of years specifically for social attachment to humans, cats were not. Cats domesticated themselves, moving closer to human settlements opportunistically, on their own terms. There was no breeding pressure selecting for bonding, no evolutionary push toward human attachment. The capacity is there, but it is not obligatory. Research from Oregon State University, published in Current Biology, found that roughly 65% of cats form what researchers classify as a secure attachment bond with their owners. the same category used to describe healthy attachment in human infants. That number is higher than many people expect. But it also means it isn't universal. Not every cat reaches that level of ease with a person. Some remain in low-grade alertness their entire lives, even with people they prefer. So if yours has rested that paw on you, relaxed, unprompted, sustained, you've received something that isn't guaranteed, a gesture invented for the relationship, delivered with their most capable paw, grounded in the oldest sense of safety they carry, and offered by an animal that, at a species level, didn't have to bond with us at all. That small touch contains all of that. And now you'll know it when it happens.